On the whole, society values high productivity, overworking, and high ambition. And that's fine if you've got an endless supply of energy, enthusiasm, and motivation. But we all know that's just not real life, especially when we add menopause into the mix. So I wanted to talk about this because it is a subject that came up in the Menopause Done Naturally Facebook community recently. So let's talk about it. And I feel this one needs a sofa chat rather than a desk. Let's go. Neglecting your roles at home or at work, in whatever capacity, it's not just a motivation thing. There's another bottom layer underneath that. And having less desire or enthusiasm for the things that you know you really should be doing, it can be linked into having had to, or in the situation where you had to push yourself quite hard in the past. So for many women going through menopause and experiencing this lower motivation thing, sometimes, it can be about emotional burnout. It can be about stress. It can be about previous times in your life when you had to push hard and keep going. There's only so long you can keep doing that. Quite a good book on the physiology of that and how it all works is called The Body Keeps the Score. Quite an interesting read. But getting more menopause specific, the hormonal changes that we go through at this time of life, they can trigger all sorts of emotional, mental, different responses within the body, physically, mentally, things that have gone on in the past, things that are happening now that you're still dealing with to a certain extent. And there's many studies that have shown a link, a correlation between childhood adversity and the severity of menopause symptoms, and plenty of research pointing to the need, the requirement for adrenal resilience and strength as we enter perimenopause. And I've talked about that in a previous video, so that's worth watching if that's something you're interested in. Feeling unfulfilled or detached or just unenthusiastic about the things you know you're going to have to do anyway, like work, for example. It's not a case of trying to find that motivation tip, that strategy, that thing that's going to give you that boost. It's more about giving yourself a proper break. And in that sense, I don't just mean like time off from work. I mean a break from feeling the pressure and the strain of worrying about not having enough motivation, and a break from the pressure of trying to or needing to push yourself more, because there's that feeling like I'm not getting stuff done, so I just have to keep going, right? And that doesn't always work. Sometimes it just makes us put the brakes on even more. Maybe part of it is about managing your diary a bit more effectively so you haven't got so much on your plate all at once. But more than that, it's about asking, what do you really need? Lots of women find that this question gets a little bit easier to answer the further into perimenopause they get, because there's less circulating estrogen, there's less of that drive for caretaking other people and nurturing and taking on other people's stress and responsibilities, and there's more thinking space for yourself. And that can actually be where some of the conflict is, because it can feel so disconcerting and strange to be so self-focused. But I'm saying that a lot of that is absolutely normal. And I know that you still need to do the work, you still need to get the bills paid, but what would truly energize you? What would energize you? Is it about giving yourself full permission to do some things for yourself every day? Making guilt-free space for it. I mean, truly guilt-free space for it. Maybe it's a regular nap in the afternoon, a little bit earlier to bed, perhaps, so that you've got the physical energy to be able to put into the work. And maybe it's about finding some quiet time for yourself during the day, or a change of routine somehow, so that you're managing things in a different way, and that creates more control around it and more enthusiasm as a direct result. There's another thing to recognise as well, and it's the fact that passions change, interests change, sometimes a little bit and sometimes a lot. And it's normal to go through peaks and troughs of enthusiasm for the things that are always going to be important to you, the work, the family stuff. They're likely always going to be on your priority list, but I doubt that you will always have the same level of passion driving those actions around them. And yeah, menopause is a big time of change anyway, and this is just another example of that. And for many women, and there's lots of women who say this to me, that the outcome of all this uncertainty and changing motivation and changing perceptions for how they feel about themselves, looking back on it now, a year or so later, it was really a catalyst for key decisions, although they didn't realize it at the time, and revisions about how they want to do certain things in their lives and what's important to them. Managing that and still being able to bring in a wage and get everything done at home and for the family, whatever else this feeling of low motivation can affect. Managing it all needs you to be okay with riding this wave, these peaks and troughs and these changing tides that are coming and going a lot. Self-compassion is key here, because riding those waves is going to be pretty choppy, and I'm sure there's plenty who will agree with me there, but it requires a lot of self-awareness to get through it, and at the same time you need encouragement, self-encouragement. Your body's literally crying out for that, rather than feelings of inadequacy, pressure, criticism. Self-compassion doesn't mean that you're tolerating your own bullshit or just putting up with stuff. It means that you're willing to listen to what's really going on in here. Instead of putting it down to hormones, we can ask ourselves, what do I really need? Not just what do I want, but what do I need? And what do I possibly need to let go of, or make some changes in some way to make room and some space mentally, physically, emotionally for those changes to actually happen. This topic came up in the Menopause Done Naturally Facebook community. If you'd like more support and advice around motivation and menopause, or other aspects of menopause as well, you're welcome to join us in there in the conversations that we have. I'll put the link below.